once I started jiu-jitsu and I started to do like really well in jiu-jitsu, I believed that I could make a living, off the sport. So, it was almost like as early as I started to compete. So it wasn't such a thing as like, oh, I'm like 20 years old now, I have to start to make money. It wasn't the case. It was literally, as I already started to compete and I got good results, I felt like I could get like, turn that into like money and make a living off of it. Making a living like from jiu-jitsu, it's pretty cool, but the whole thing, like, it's such a stress relief that jiu-jitsu is. That I think that's my jiu-jitsu lifestyle. Like I feel like sometimes I'm stressed out like about like something else, paying bills and all those crazy things, and I come to the gym, like I get my 10 minutes round, like I do like my 30 minutes roll, and I just forget about everything else. And so I think that's the main thing that jiu-jitsu brings to me. Again, like I said, like, it's not about the money, but it's about like the whole thing, that the benefits that brings you, like your health, like it's something like that's different. It is important in my life. Like I said, I could be something else. I could be even like a lawyer, a doctor, whatever. I don't know if it would be, I would have this like kind of like natural like stress relief, like that I have in jiu-jitsu. That's my job, but at the same time it's like something that I do for fun. I feel like I've accomplished a lot. I'm able to like now live off jiu-jitsu. I'm able to make a living, like I support my family, and that's actually my biggest accomplishment. I used to be really shy, and then it becomes to the point where like, well, now you have to teach classes, you have to deal with people. Not just that, you're gonna have to do that like speaking another language. So I became way more vocal. I became like a guy who's like, I can live like in big group and they still like try to talk, like be like really like vocal about things. So jiu-jitsu also helped me with that. The whole like teaching classes. Like jiu-jitsu was the start of like everything. I was 100% like shy about anything. I would go like to parties, just like stay by myself. I wouldn't talk to anybody unless it was like super close friend. Even talking to girls, man. Like when I was young, it was tough because like I would be like really shy. Like I didn't know how to get on somebody. And this whole thing of like you see like the environment, how it is in the jiu-jitsu gym. Everybody like always joking around. Like some gyms they're like more serious, but like from what I came from, like people always like have that kind of friendship. And I think that opened me up a little bit more, to like be more social. I do believe that. That's why I like to also tell my students, man, like they think that some people have to be born with talent, like for jiu-jitsu. That's why they become successful at it. For me, like I believe that I'm not a great athlete. It's not about being athletic. It's not about this or that. It's about training. Like my jiu-jitsu game now with gi, it's nowhere as good as it was as when I was a brown belt. Because like I would just training gi like twice a day, every day. And it was like so much better this time. I would say that now I'd have like a bigger knowledge. I know a lot more stuff. Probably like I can see like things happening a lot better than I used to. But I was a better competitor. Like I used to do like a lot more. I would have like had a different pace like on the mat training. But I think that all come back like with training. So I think that's the biggest thing. That's what makes people a champion in the sport, is the fact that they train more than other people. They train more than average people. So I think anybody can reach that level if they dedicate themselves the same way as the the world-class athletes. So I think it's all about dedication. It's not much about like talent. If you have the right mindset, that's one thing that nobody can teach anybody. You have to have it. That's the only thing. But everything else, as far as athleticism, you can get that from training. Your technique, you can get better from training, but if you don't have the right mindset, you might never reach that level. And again, that's one thing that you're gonna be teaching people in the gym. My style of jiu-jitsu has changed like so much over the years. Like I would start like as a blue belt. That's when I started to develop kind of my own game. As a blue belt, I would be like a guy guard passer, just like passing the guard, all the same pass to you. I never changed it much, but I had like that pass. It was like I mastered that pass. I could just work on it and pass. As a purple belt, I started to develop my half guard, so I became like a guard guy. As a brown belt, I started to play the La Riva. And mostly I was like a point like grappler, like in my first like lower belt. And funny enough, like instead of like, you know, keep that style, like, and since like I'm competing against better guys now, once I became a black belt, that's when I started to submit people. So if people would think, yeah, maybe like, you know, the lower levels he was tapping everybody out, but no, it was the opposite. Brown belt, at the end of my brown belt to black belt, that's when I became like a more of a finisher. If you look at my match at ADCC, like there's not like a lot of points. I never get a lot of points. I'm not that guy who's getting like, you know, sweep, back, mount, passes. I think I have never scored a guard pass in ADCC. I've swapped people to mount, swapped to taking back. Sometimes I take it back like off scrambles, but as far as like passing the guard mount, like all those like basic transitions, I don't think it has ever happened in ADCC, and I've competed it 3 times. But I'm more of a finisher nowadays. I look for submissions more than anything else. Sometimes, like, and I'm still like down points or whatever, and I'm still looking for submissions, which actually ends up like opening up like for me to get points. Sometimes I'm going for a heel hook, the guy gives up the top position, I get a sweep. Sometimes I'm going for an omoplata, looking for the finish, the guy rolls and I get a sweep. So like happened against Verdun. So I became more of a finisher, which actually allows me to get points sometimes. My first MMA fight was in around 2005, 2006, and it was totally because I was training with Cesar Gracie Academy, and you know, they had like Nick Diaz, Jake Shields, David Terrell, all those guys were grapplers. They were fighting MMA, and that's actually was my better training there. You know, they didn't have much of a jiu-jitsu guys at my level because, like, you know, I was just competing gi. I had just won the world championship as a brown belt in gi, and I was just like a top level in gi, but I had no experience whatsoever, no gi. But that was the best training, so I had to start training with the guys to get the best training. And since they were fighting, you know, they started to get motivated about fighting too. They said that I could do really well in MMA, and I kind of got into that hype, you know. So my first MMA fight, I did with 3 weeks of training for a fight, and those 3 weeks were basically jiu-jitsu. You know, jiu-jitsu with punches, but no like wrestling, no striking. And I would say that my first few MMA fights were that way. Even though Ultimate Fighter, like my whole experience was jiu-jitsu. That's why, like, you know, I would rush into the clinch and try to pole guard because I had no wrestling and I knew it. You know, I wasn't risking doing anything else. I wasn't risking trying to like a takedown and burning myself out. So that's why I was pulling guard, because like up until that point, I just had no idea like how to go for a takedown. I had no idea how to go for a double leg. And even nowadays, I'm still getting better at those areas. But back then, like up to the Ultimate Fighter, I was not an MMA fighter. I was a jiu-jitsu guy doing MMA. And after the, you know, I made the Ultimate Fighter finale. That's when I became an MMA fighter. So there's 2 stages. If you can't count, you can count 2006 to 2008 as a tryout to start. And I would say that I started fighting MMA. I became an MMA fighter in 2008.
Declaring the winner by submission due to an armbar, Vinny Magalhaes.
In jiu-jitsu, like, you know, you really respect it for, like, you know, the guy could be, let's say if I fought, like if I had gone against Buchecha 3 times, the guy had beat me 3 times, I should not hate the guy, I should not talk shit about him. While like in MMA, it's almost like you have to, you know, if you want to promote a fight, if you want to promote like a rivalry, you have to be that, you know, they have to have a good guy and a bad guy, and sometimes you have to choose the role of be like a bad guy. And unfortunately, or maybe a good thing, like, you know, there's more spots in the sport to be a bad guy, and that's pretty much the role it chose. Like, you know, once I got back to the UFC, I was like, you know, there's too many good guys. Either people choose to be the good guy, or the guys that don't talk about anything. They don't want to be good or bad guys. The guys that don't want to be good or bad guys, the guys just want to be neutral. Nobody knows like who they are. You know, there was like UFC, they probably have like 400 like UFC fighters, and if you start to like try to name people, you might be able to name maybe like 30, 40, 60 guys most out of 400, just because, like, you know, the other guys, they don't stand out. Either they don't stand out as fighters, or they don't stand out as characters, you know, and that's important. Like, jiu-jitsu, it is a sport, you know, it's about like lifestyle, it's about be like, you know, discipline, it's about like all those like good things. MMA, it's a sport and entertainment, so like talking sometimes, good or bad, has to happen, you know. It's not just about being quiet and do your job just to go there and fight. some guys, like I said, can stand out just by fighting. Some guys, they have to fight and they have to talk. And pretty much what I chose to do, you know, like I'm not the guy that some people think I am, but I chose to talk just so I could get, like, first off, more money, because that's a business, and I could get, like, more exposure. So, you know, people, if it happened like what happened, like of me getting cut in the UFC again, I would still have a chance to get it back, because, like, you know, I'm a guy who became marketable for the things I said, also for the fact that I fought fairly well.